Hi, I'm here, Ian Fox, once again. It's the Guest Safety Officer Lobby Group show. And gosh, what a great show we've got today. It really is. We've got Gary is here. And fortunately, to keep him company, I brought someone who knows a little bit more about working on the ground than he does. And that's Oli Nonis from AKON Security, who's got some wonderful things to share with us about knife crime, business licensing, recruitment and retention, and we're going to get a different opinion. So it should be fun. But first of all, as always, we need to make sure that we're properly introduced. So, Gary, please tell us, who are you?
Thank you, Ian. As you know, I'm Gary Twining-Wright. I consult for SSMRT. I've been in the industry 37 years and still going strong. What I haven't done in security, I like to question myself. The only thing I haven't done in security ever is cybersecurity, as I continue to say, not my bag at all. But yeah, that's me wrapped up in a shell, 37 years experience and still out on the ground.
Brilliant. My name's Ian Fox, and I've done lots and lots of things. I'm what's known as a generalist, I suppose. I've trained, worked on the doors for an hour. I was telling Oli about that, full hour, by the way, but it was raining. It was raining, so you can't blame me for not sticking with it. But event security, training, all of it, whatever you want to do, I've done it, written some things for the SIA. So I know a little bit, not as much as these two guys, which is why they're here to talk about the real business. So let's, first of all, ask Oli Nonis. That's his name, people. Yeah, it is. Oli Nonis from AKON Security. To introduce himself and say what he's been up to.
Yeah, I'm Oli Nonis, the MD of AKON Security. Not like Gary, I haven't done quite that long in the industry. I think nearly 20 years in. I've been running AKON Security for 16 of those. Yeah, I started, I think, on the cusp of, I suppose, the SIA coming into play. I never particularly wanted to be a doorman or even like doorman back then. I tend to always find them the kind of stereotypical image of what I disliked about the role. When the opportunity come up, someone said, "Look, do you fancy trying a bit of door work?" I was like, "No, I hate doormen, or I hate bouncers," as it was back then. And he said, "No, come and give it a try." Anyway, tried it, absolutely loved it, and said, "Look, for me, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it in a different way. I don't agree with what I was seeing and everything else, and it's quite apparent within like a year or so of doing it that my method and the way I operated was very different to the other guys, but it was well received. And a few years after that, from doing different bits and bobs, events, very small bit of close protection, all kinds of different bits in the security industry, I started realizing that forming my own company was the way I wanted to go. So here we are.
Oh, that's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. See, that's certainly longer than I've been doing it. That's for sure, isn't it, Gary?
You're out. You've had an hour. You've had
an hour. Come on.
You didn't go outside.
I don't know. I didn't go outside. It was also cold. If I forgot to mention, did I forget to mention that it was cold as well?
I mean, if it's cold, you are allowed to stand inside. It's fine.
Well, that's all right then. See, Gary. See, I knew it wasn't that bad. So, right, the reason that you're here, because the thing that caught my eye most recently was the article that you posted regarding knife crime, and the rise of knife crime, and the 15-inch blade that you found.
So probably at least, yeah.
So
I was contacted by the paper, obviously working in the small city that I'm in. Often when there's issues and things, they'll come to me and say, "Look, have you got anything to say?" And I'd actually sat on the story for a bit of time because I was hoping that, to be honest, the police would come to their senses and actually do something about it. And I didn't, you know, I've always had a good relationship with the police, and I didn't want to sour that. But due to the nature of what happened, I mean, if you want, I'll explain it from the start.
Yeah, please do.
Go into it. Yeah, so it was one of the clubs we look after. It was a student night. It was quite early on in the night, I think about probably 10 o'clock in the evening, and people were starting to turn up. Anyway, a young chap turns up in a group of 3. He was something to do with DJ of that night. Anyway, he goes through. He's got a backpack on, so you know we're searching everyone coming through. My doorman searches it, and I didn't actually see the search. I mean, I was there at the time, but I didn't actually see the search. But from what I saw on CCTV, he basically goes into the bag, pulls out this bloody great Rambo knife, which was sheathed. Kind of can't actually believe what he's looking at. So you can almost see his face like that. As he's sort of looking at it, the guy then goes to grab it. So they're tossing it over the blade. Luckily, my chap, you know, he's quite strong, and he managed to win the battle, got it off him, and the guy scarpered. So he ran out of the club. We've all chased him anyway. Managed to catch him. Ended up with him completely ripping his trousers open and pretty much ending down to his pants. And anyway, we detained him till the police turned up. They were pretty quick. Turned up and arrested him. All the time we were detaining him, he was he was freely admitting that, you know, it was his knife, and you know, it was a mistake. He didn't mean to bring it. Blah blah blah. Picked up the wrong bag. All this kind of rubbish. Anyway, so the police arrested him. We went back to work. I think it must have been about probably two hours, maybe 2.5 at a max. The guys are standing there, and this chap comes walking past the front door of the venue. Looks at the head doorman, goes, "Pussy hole, see, I told you I'll be back out again." So I think the guys at this point, I wasn't there, but the guys in sort of disbelief of what had just occurred. The guy then proceeded to stand probably less than 30 metres away from the front door of the venue, abusing the guys, saying whatever they're going to say. So the guys put a call into the police, said, "Look, you know, the male that was arrested 2 hours ago for having this freaking great knife is now standing outside threatening us and standing there. Could you do something about it?" Didn't get a response. It was just by chance a police patrol car rolled by. The guys went over and spoke to him, spoke to them and said, "Look, can you know, this case," they weren't aware. They called the station to look what was going on. And they said, "Oh no, he's been released." Not only was he released without charge. Now, there's mixed things what we've heard from. I don't want to drop anyone in it, but from what we were told by a certain person, was the reason that he was not charged was because his reasoning was that he had it for a prop for a rap video. That was one of the reasons. And when I actually spoke to the custody sergeant, this is later on down the line, he told me that there was no evidence to support it. So, as you can imagine, you know, I've got a lot of disgruntled. You know, my team have already disgruntled at this point. They're kind of, "What the hell's going on, Oli? You know, what? How has this happened? You know, with all the severity of things that have gone on in the past and everything else, how have they not taken this seriously? How the hell is this guy within 2 hours being released without charge?" Obviously, there's rumours going around that he was, you know, a police informant and things like this, and that was all just hearsay and rubbish. In the simple fact of the case was that you know, what it actually came down to was the fact that, from what I know, was that they just didn't do the job, the police. They didn't take any evidence at the time. They didn't take any CCTV. Didn't take the body cam evidence. They didn't take any of this. So, gone back to the custody sergeant, and his view was that, yeah, there's not enough evidence to charge, even though we quite clearly had him on body camera admitting that it was his knife, and everything else. So for me at that point, when I was contacted by the papers, I said, "Look, yeah, I do have a story." So there's something that's rather annoyed me and my team, and yeah, I don't understand it. Got no justification. So So it got released in the papers. The story got released, and as we were briefly talking earlier, as the papers often do, rather than using the correct terminology for security, door staff, door supervisors, we get labelled as bouncers, which is a term I have been trying, working over many years to get away from. I'm not trying to discredit anything from back in the day, but that terminology, I feel, doesn't have the right connotations to it. With the role that we do, it doesn't represent what we do properly.
Yeah, I think before we get sort of down that, because that's a separate question that I want to ask you, but I just want to bring Gary in now to, because have you had similar experiences? Because this thing with the knife crime, with a knife, that is just staggering. But Gary, have you had?
Yeah, I've got stories to bore you endlessly there with it in. With knives and even expendable batons. I mean, I think a couple of years ago, I posted on LinkedIn, or my former operations manager posted on LinkedIn, that we took an expendable baton off somebody. The Met Police were very good at that time. They did come along, they did arrest him, and did take him away. But it's one of those things, isn't it? What we're looking at is different police services, different things, isn't it? Met are quite busy. They usually crack on with stuff. Other counties, all depends. I mean, was it you're over in Canterbury, weren't they? What's the?
Kent, Kent, yeah. So it's Kent Constabulary.
Yeah, so it all depends on what their workload is and if they can be bothered. The saddest thing about it is they've let that go. If you've got the body camera footage, you've got the evidence there for them. But what I am finding with a lot of police services, even with my own situation, which has happened, I've submitted the body-worn evidence. I've submitted the CCTV evidence. I've got the screenshots. I'm still waiting for the guy who actually assaulted me to arrest that guy. So,
sorry, Gary, but what about just sticking specifically with it? Have you? So you saying as well, you've had incidents where you've taken knives off people as well, not batons, but actual, let's stab you all to death knives kind of thing. Yeah.
And even a pistol. We had a pistol rock up one day. A guy, a so-called rapper, he rocked up, and he literally rocked up with a plate carrier on, and the pistol in a holster stuck in his chest. In Tottenham, and this was in Tottenham. Very quickly, I disarmed him, done an NSP, which is a normal safety precaution for those who didn't out there. So I know Ian would ask for that. Checked it, found out it was a airsoft weapon, and then we bagged it, took it off him, and we gave it to the police, and the police just took it away. Didn't arrest anybody because it was a airsoft weapon.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I can't speak about knives and stuff. Basically, I could, but I'm not going to. But what I'm going to talk about, one of the things there that struck me is the guy coming back and mocking the daughter. Now, when I was in previously when I was running an organisation called National Door Watch, I used to go around the country and go and visit places. I went over to Skegness. It's a seaside town, They were very good. They did look after me. But one of the places that I went to, one of the nightclubs that I went to, they arrested this guy or stopped him on the door, got a big bag of pills off him, called the licensing officer over, it was a police, it was a police guy at that time, and they got him over. He got arrested, and just like you've said, Oli, he was back an hour later, stood the other side of the road, taking the mickey. How does that help the situation, help us keep a safe environment, a civilized space on the streets when that kind of stuff's happening?
What examples? I mean, this is the point that one of my team raised at the time. That due to the type of event it was, a lot of people had seen what had happened. They'd seen at the beginning of the night. So by this time, he was still there. At the end of the night, they're all coming out and they're seeing him standing there. Now they all know he's just been arrested for having a knife.
Yeah.
So how does that show seriously this has been taken if this guy's standing there basically going, almost sort of laughing that he's got away with it.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't send the message to him going, yeah, bloody hell, don't carry it because you're going to, you know, you're going to end the shit. No, basically, it just shows that, yeah, you can get away with it if you say the right thing or the police don't follow up what they need to do. And it really left a sour taste amongst the team. I mean, what would you just couldn't even make it up was that same club that same weekend we were contacted by the police saying that this is even before this has occurred, this was happening. They were putting a knife arch in on the Friday. Now, my head doorman at the time, quite rightly so, said to the licensing officer when they turned up with knives, I said, it's all well and good we're doing this. He said, but what the hell are you going to do if we actually catch someone with a knife? If it's going to be like the same situation we had before?
Yeah.
What's the point? He didn't really have much to say on it. And like I said, it kind of, without the newspaper article kind of drumming up, I think rustling some feathers within the actual police, that I got contacted by the custody sergeant, who almost tried to palm me off, shall we say, to say that, it's been dealt with, don't worry, blah, 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 the reasons behind it, but kind of trying to quiet me down. And that obviously didn't happen. And from what I understand now, that custody sergeant's no longer at the station, and the male that actually had the knife is actually, been arrested now.
Finally been arrested.
Finally, yeah. Nearly took a year.
About time. What, a year?
Nearly, yeah.
Nearly. Yeah. It's just a lot. I mean, but I think an awful lot of it as well is to do with consequences. The fact that people more and more are beginning to realise that within the nighttime economy, the social economy, that there are no consequences for bad behaviour. No. Right. Let's sort of move on there, and the role of the modern guest safety officer, as we call them, door supervisors, however. You wrote a piece, or you had a piece written about that. Can you tell us why you felt it was important to make that statement, to say what they should be doing or how they should be behaving?
I think for me it comes back from the reasons why I started, and looking at how you can actually do the job, taking out all the original stereotypes that people perceived that you had to be to do the role. I did the job, and I absolutely loved it. The people, the teams you work with, and there were so many decent people that were just doing the job because, one, they like the people they work with, and two, because you enjoyed the social aspect of actually helping people and being around people. And I think the misconception from a lot of people, even friends, when I was doing it, oh yeah, you're beating people up. It's like, no, it's nothing like that. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't. If you're doing that, you're doing the job wrong. That's fundamentally what a lot of people could not understand. And for me, introducing the body cams as a way of sort of showing people, look, this is actually what we do. Despite what everyone conceives or thinks that doormen are, this is actually how it works. And there was a article that came out, some body cam footage from us, where a guy had been refused. A couple of my team were at one of the venues, and a guy had been refused anyway. He proceeded to stand there for, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, basically calling them CUNTs, that he's going to kill their families, he's going to do this. And it went on, and he was swearing, he was going nuts. But the lads, as they've been trained and as they know how I want them to operate and how they know the jobs to be done, the guy didn't have anything in his hands. He wasn't being a threat. Yes, he was shouting and he was saying these things, but rather than trying to sort of go, what the F are you saying? Come on, let's... Yeah. The response was, "Come on, fella, what are you playing at? Why are you trying to do this? We can't let you in. You've had too much to drink, and trying to reason with the guy, and I think people don't see that. I think they see or presume what they want to feel about the role, that the people that do it are doing it because they were bullied at school and all this rubbish, and it's just not the reality. The people that do this job and do it well are generally decent people who are doing it to try and help people. It really is. The people I see do it properly. don't get me wrong, there are, like in every industry, there's people that are in it for the wrong reasons and do let the side down. But that is, you know, in every industry you'll come across. But I think for me, really, is you know, I wanted, and I'm sure, like Gary, from what I understand as well, Gary's sort of same opinion, is like you've got guys out there on the ground that are absolutely doing a thankless task that no one really recognises, and it's trying to sort of show that and say, look, this isn't necessarily what a lot of people out there think it is. And I think if other people maybe knew more about it, maybe the uptake of recruitment would, you know, we'll come on to that obviously, as you said, but you know, that might even increase knowing what it really is like. So yeah.
Jerry, I mean, you know, bouncer saying your favourite, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, I come from the old school bouncer days. You know, back in the 80s, you know, a tuxedo warrior, as we like to be known then, tuxedo warriors in the Dickies oboes, white shirts and the things. Yeah, I come from those days, pre-SIA, pre-licensing. You know, a bouncer's job was to bounce. That's what we got paid more money. The job was we bounced people out of nightclubs, end of story, things. But things has changed. And with the change, I mean, I looked at it and went, we have to change. We've got to redevelop. You know, and this was before the SIA started kicking into play. When they started bringing in council licenses, and I looked at that point and went, this is the right idea. We're moving in the right direction. And from that moment when the council licenses came to play, my eyes opened. I went, we're not bouncers. We are here for other people. And as Oli was saying, the majority of the people I worked with, they've done it because they love the job. They didn't do it because they wanted to beat people up. Even the old school bouncers, yeah, they were handy guys. You know, a lot of them were very handy guys. But it wasn't about them beating people up. They generally cared. They cared about the vulnerable people. They cared about the, you know, females. They cared about everybody. And that's why they put so much effort into the job of doing what they did.
It's and I think that's so relevant, isn't it? The fact this is what we're about, Oli, by the way. It's about trying to change the narrative. Yeah. We've got to stop this bouncer, you know, what is it, thugs in tuxedos, you know, image that's being portrayed. Because, and the simple answer is, it's bad for business. You know, what kind of company employs bouncers? You know,
I would say on that, I would say that you know, I was glad to see that the industry was starting to take a change and people were starting to get it and going away from the stereotypical. But from what I've seen off the back of COVID, and I don't know what it's like where you are, Gary, but I've seen a kind of resurgence of people that are trying to almost reinstill that image, that kind of style. You know, the other day, you know, I mean, I haven't been out on around the doors for a while just because I had a bit of a back issue. So I've kind of been off the ground. But I mean, from the sounds, it's very similar to Gary. I was out every weekend. I was, you know, always getting involved in whatever was occurring through the city, and it was kind of, I've completely lost my train of thought there. Sorry, what were we on? We were saying.
Well, I don't know.
Go away, Ian. I was just telling you, what it basically is the way the doormen have started to change on the back of COVID. You're seeing a more these old school mentality.
Yeah, no, it was, and then you know, there always used to be where I am, you know, maybe 2 or 3 main sort of suppliers of security. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not overly keen on some of my competitors. One of them was I worked for before, and you know, that's what kind of led me into realising there was a better way of doing this job and way of looking after the staff. But what I'm seeing now off the back of COVID is there's a lot more kind of a man with a mobile phone that knows a few guys from down the gym that all pump steroids in their backside. And, you know, they rock up to work rather than rocking up nice and smart and, you know, 3-piece suit or however you want your guys to dress. These guys are turning up, you know, tucked in like combat trousers into their boots, just trying to look like they're storming the Iranian embassy and standing on a really nice sort of pub door. You know, it's that kind of image. And I just sort of shake my head because they're all cash in hand. They're all doing things the wrong way. And the scary thing is they're starting to get momentum, because as I'm sure Gary was sort of saying, the way that you know, you're trying to sort of do things now, a lot of guys want that easier option. They don't necessarily want to be employed. They don't want to be on the cards, and you're fighting this battle where if it wasn't an option and they couldn't just go to so and so and get that, they wouldn't do it. They would be working, and they'd be working under your direction the way you want them to work. But currently they're not. They're getting that option where they can go and work for Dave down the road for cash in hand and do what they want to do, because there's no protocols, there's no SOPs in place, there's nothing. It's just, like I said, it's just really, you know, I shouldn't knock it, but it realistically, it needs. This is where another issue I have is the lack of enforcement, especially in my area, of these things.
Well, that's something I want to touch on exactly now, because it's something that I wanted to ask about. Gary and I have talked about before, and given our rather lengthy, people, you weren't there, fortunately for you, discussion on body-worn cameras with these two. You know, I went out, had some dinner, came back, they were still at it. But anyway, the long and the short of it is, should body-worn cameras actually be something that's introduced as part of the licensing conditions for venues? I mean, what do you think to that? Would that add? And I know you two use them, so I'm gonna say that you're probably going to be in favour of that, aren't you?
I take it, yeah. I've got. Okay. I'm sure Gary's. Yeah, go on, Gary. You go, mate.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, we use them. I can go back to using body-worn cameras back to 2003 when I first started using them. I used one of these bloody movie cam things. It was tiny, about that big, and that's when I first started doing it. And from the moment I started doing that, things started changing. I noticed people's attitudes changed towards the teams. The staff's attitudes changed, and it reduced conflict probably by, pull a figure out of my head, 60%. Reduced it by that much. When you tell people, just let you know we're filming, people suddenly shut up. And also it did shut flipping staff up from them being idiots and saying the wrong things. So should it be part of the licensing agreement or on the license? Yeah, perhaps it should be. I think it should be. But the downside is some of these guys don't know how to use them.
Yeah.
And again, the next stage is you've got these individuals who are running around. I know people who sell body-worn cameras, and you've got guys running around with body-worn cameras filming people, and next thing you know, they've got no idea about the ICO having what's it called, license, the ICO, which is, sorry, my brain's gone dead on that one.
CCTV license. If you're gonna operate as an individual, you would need to have a CCTV license. If you're going to review it, if you're just uploading and the officer can't actually look at the footage, then you can upload it, and that's why yours would be okay at this precise moments in time. Yeah,
but this is what I'm saying. So you've got individuals who haven't even got a license to keep people's data, so they're running around taking videos, and what are they abusing that fact? So we're going back to these rogue elements who want to pay, get their cash in hand. Do they run around with a body-worn camera taking images? What images are they taking, and how are they storing that? Whereas ourselves, I'm not going to use the company we use, not because they're not paying me to stay that name, but we use a very reputable company. We've got a great system in play. It's got a cloud system in play. It gets uploaded, and if we need to transfer it to the police, it's all there. And you've got a system there to watch it, and also we're ICO registered. So we've got everything in play to cover that side. So to answer your question, Ian, should every license have that sort of thing in play, a body-worn camera thing in play? I don't see why not. It resolves a lot of issues. It keeps staff in line if they press the button. Yeah, but generally it does reduce violence by a great deal. And if things do go wrong, you've got that video evidence, which is great for evidential purposes.
You, Oli, what do you think?
I've been in favour for a long time, partly because obviously we, in our area, we were the first in our area to deploy them. And it was a selling point. It wasn't just, like I said, it wasn't just a great tool and a protection for the guys. It was also a selling point when you're taking on venues. Because as I know and will know in this industry, one of the biggest headaches the customers or our customers will get is complaints from people saying that they've been beaten up by the doorman and they've had this and that. And you know, I would go as far as to say sort of 99% of the time when we get a complaint come in and we see the email and we look at it and we go, bloody hell, what's gone on? Let's go back to the body cam. So we're going to have a look at the body cam. Nothing like what they're saying in the email. Nothing like what they're accusing the doorman of. You know, and it's a great tool to show the customer, look, no, you know, because before it was your word against the customers and against the drunk customers as opposed to your actual client. It's for me, it's been a great tool in resolving that. Now, in regards to what I've seen locally with the councils and the licensing side, is it's not consistent enough. So they might have a venue that's had problems, and they say, right, your door team has to have body-worn cameras. Now, realistically, a bit like where we are at the moment, every venue, part of their licensing, they should have a town net or nighttime, don't know what you call it in your area, but a CCTV link camera. You know, they should be part of that system, like a pub watch. But it's an option. It's not a requirement. So a lot of the bars are like, well, I'm not paying 360 quid a year or whatever it is to join that, so I'm not going to have it. But realistically, that part of their license, as well as that if you're going to have security and it's part of your license, those security must wear a body camera. You know, it's the only way. I think it keeps everyone on the same playing field, and it for me, no question about it. I think they should do it. Whether they will do it is we'll see what happens there. But it's just infrequent. Some do, some don't.
All I can say to you both is, you know, I did research for the Nottingham nighttime bid, and I run a camera project for them, and I also did one for Strathclyde Police in Sauchiehall Street over the New Year period a few years ago. And all I can say is, in every venue that those cameras were put in play, there was an immediate reduction in violence from customers, and the most wonderful thing was I've never seen such well-spoken doorman in my entire life. You know, oh, I say, sir, you are really being, you are being recorded, don't you know? You know, it was fantastic to see the level of customer service, all of which did its part in actually reducing violence and on all parts. Most importantly, of course, it creates a civilised space in which for people to operate, and that's what we're on about. Again, guest safety officers create civilised spaces in which people can go out and enjoy themselves when they're not at work. They can have a beer, and that's why it's good for businesses to hire guest safety officers as opposed to doorman, DS, whatever you want to call it, because, hey, we're here to look after you. Perception is everything these days. Anyway, better move on before I run out of things. Let's have a quick talk about recruitment and retention issues. How's that going?
Marvellous.
Why are we struggling?
I think cutting in. Sorry again, Gary. I'm jumping in.
No, you.
I think. Listen, the rate that doormen are currently paid, or was, it is changing. But the rate that doormen were currently paid, and it all depends on what area you're into, trying to compete with the other companies and things like that. But I think that it's 20 years behind the times. You know, when you look at what bar staff, for example, were getting paid when I started, they were on £5 an hour, and doormen were on £10 an hour, or £11 an hour. You know, now bar staff are pretty much getting the same as door staff. And even what I found the other day, my office manager's son is getting more than some of my doormen working in Asda overnight stacking shelves. You know, it's just killed the industry in that. It hasn't moved forward. A lot of that is the less scrupulous companies that will literally just look at numbers as opposed to actually people, and they'll go, right, we'll put anyone anywhere. They'll pay them, pay them £8 an hour to work a door. Most of the time, these people, without sounding too harsh, can't really speak English. They're people, to be honest, don't even really understand the role they've been put in, from my experience. And I think it's killed it. It's kind of taken for me and the true doorman, guest safety officers, ejection technicians, as a colleague of mine used to like to call us, it's taken that kind of credibility away from the role. That where kind of you did this and you knew that this job can be dangerous. If you're not doing it right, it is dangerous. And you need a good team around you. But the more and more the market was getting flooded with these people that, to be honest, probably they're not in the right industry. And I see it, and as much as I hate to say it, they're going to the job centre are going, oh, you'd be great, you should be a doorman, go and be a doorman, get a license. They've absolutely got no ability within them to be a doorman, and they're getting pushed into that direction. So they're then in the market, and they don't understand the history. They don't understand the things that, like, some of us have gone through and understand that where we've got to now. And it's kind of, well, I'll go and work for 10 quid an hour in an absolute crap hole of a bar, when really everyone else has turned around and gone, we're not going to work there for less than 8 quid an hour. But you're then getting these people, and I've seen that. And I think that's what's seen a big exodus. And I saw it through COVID. A lot of my sort of guys that I've come up with through years, through COVID, when the doors stopped, they didn't want to be a security guard. They're like, I don't want to go and stand in the supermarket, and they went off and found other work and haven't returned. Partly because the money's, not great, and partly because they're like, I actually quite enjoy my weekends now.
Yeah.
That was another thing. But then off the back of that, they kind of left, and I think with what I'm seeing, which is a good thing, is rates are starting to creep up. We're starting to sort of push up. It's still nowhere near where it needs to be, but as of April, obviously, with the national minimum wage going up, we've put all our prices up. We've gone up to a level where we've gone, right, we are potentially going to lose business through this, but for us to retain the quality that we look for, we have to go in at that rate. And if the customer isn't willing to take it, then they're probably not necessarily the customer that's right for us to retain the business profile that we've built. And this is it. I think that the image of the industry has been damaged from the people that you really want to do it. And I think that the retention of the staff, most of this is a part-time job for people. They've got another day job. They're hard-working men and women that are probably, doing other stuff. They're looking after their kids. They're maybe doing 3-4 nights a week to boost their money, to take their family on holiday. And I think it's, they're looking, well, is it worth it? Is it worth me standing there, potentially having a knife ender pulled on me for 50 quid a night, And they're not stupid people. So they're like, no, it isn't. I'm going to step away from this. Like, I love my team, I love the people, but is it worth it? And it's hard not to agree with them, as bad as that sounds.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you go back when I first started, your average night security, whatever you want to call them,
was that in Roman times, Gary?
Yeah, just a little bit before. You should know that. Yeah, because I know you're a little bit older than me there, Ian. So you should.
I don't know. That's what I was thinking. I wasn't sure whether they'd invented fire.
Just after that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll get to my point, Ian.
Sorry.
Thank you. But when we first started, we were getting 37 years ago. We were getting paid £15 an hour. Now, £15 an hour, 37 years ago. Now, we spoke about this in other videos. Now, your night guardman or your Tesco's security or retail security, they were on something like £2.50, £3.50 an hour. And that's the difference, because we were bouncers. I use that word there. We bounced people out. We looked after venues, we protected venues, and we got paid for doing that job. And that's what it is. And what's happened over the years, through the introduction licensing, then you had the what's it called, the Olympics and what have you. They flooded the market with all these individuals, and as you said, now you've got people coming in. It's an easy thing. Yeah, go and get a badge. Go and stand there, and you tell me 37 years, we're only just paying, you know, I'm saying my staff, my wife pays her staff between £14 and £18 an hour. She's like yourself, Ollie. If it doesn't fit into her category, doesn't fit into bits and pieces, she's not taking the jobs on because it's just not worthwhile. And to retain good staff, you need to pay that good staff. But the gap between your retail and your guest safety officer should be a big difference. I mean, I remember going back those days, we only used to work Thursday through to Sunday. That was our wages. We had more money by doing 2 to 3 days work, or even 4 days max. We didn't have to work. And that was our weekend money because it's what we got paid. So, you know, it's not good that the money hasn't increased. There is a big difference between your retail side and, you know, your nighttime economy side or your social economy side, but that's not being reflected. And again, venues, because you've got all these small companies out there who are willing to work for this lower rate, you know, they're not asking for that money. So venue operators are going, yeah, well, I can get flipping Bernie here, but Bernie's got a team of guys and they do it for so much money. And Bernie's paying cash, or Bernie's doing this, that, and the other, etc., etc. And they're getting it. And you are. The days of a decent security officer or guest safety officer are gone. There's very few companies who actually put out the ground decent looking fellas or personnel out there now. Those days gone. We're all falling for this combat trousers, boots, and again looking like we just stormed an embassy. You know, and I hold my hands up. A lot of the places I work, it's all pretty much the same. But the trouble is, you've got all these poor individuals coming in, or they turn up looking like waiters. Yeah. You know, they come in their black suits, white shirts, their black ties, and they look like bloody waiters. Yeah. And again, they've got no idea of the job they're meant to be doing. They've got no idea about public safety. Yes, they've done the course, they've passed the course. We've gone on the pass about the training. You know, they've got their minimum standards, but they don't understand the job role which they've been involved in. And that's where the issue starts lying. You know, the good people have left, and now they've left in droves, and we're left with individuals coming in who then want to think, yeah, we can be the bouncer. They weren't even around 37 years ago. These are young guys and girls who weren't even there when it first started. They were not part of this thing. So I don't understand how they've got this knowledge of, we can do this, we've got a badge, we can do that. Where'd they get it from? You weren't there 37 years ago. You know, and I say this to these guys, how can you have a mentality of saying you don't understand? But for some reason, they've got this.
They watch Rise of the Foot Soldier and they think that they know it.
Yeah.
Honestly, some of the guys that I speak to, and it's like, it's like Rise of the Foot Soldier. It's like, that's a film, but, you know, they still think that. But,
Is that with the kind of film, you know, where everybody gets hit over the head with iron bars, but still manages to get up afterwards? Because like we're proper rock, aren't we? When we do that, but guys, you know, need to sort of quickly move on. Yeah, but it's great listening to that, and you're absolutely right. The shift towards the DWP, the production, as you know, when I was doing something for the SIA, I was in Manchester, and I went to one club, and you know, he said that they just produced sausage doorman from the DWP. That's it, just sausage doorman, jacket fillers and sausage doorman. Anyway, moving swiftly on, Oli, the ACS, business licensing, your thoughts on that, and the impact, the potential impact of the Workers' Protection Bill.
So ACS is something that for me, I kind of held off getting, because one of the reasons I did, because one of our competitors, or they have it, or a couple of our competitors have it, and in all honesty, I know that we beat them hands down on all levels. So I was like, what benefit is it to me to get it? So I held off for a while, but as I kind of found quite apparent, and I looked sort of as time went on, and especially after or within COVID, and the availability of work was going to sort of mainly the ACS approved companies, it became more apparent I had to do it. Now, looking into it and looking at what it is, I'm more in belief that it is a good thing. It is a good thing. Despite probably the cost of it and everything else, I do believe that it's something that we do need as a company, just to prove that we are what we are. You know, it's all well and good. I've been saying it for 16 years, but I feel now that we're only going to get a recognition if we have that ACS stamp. So for us, that's the next. This year we'll have it. I'm confident. We have the ISO, which is similar, but it's not obviously the ACS accreditation. But I think, you know, the business licensing side of things is something that we're talking about for a long time, and it hasn't materialised. Now, is it going to? For me, I'd all be in favour of it if it's actually going to stop the issues that I'm seeing at the moment, which is literally, you know, Dave knows Paul, Steve, and Thingy. He's been asked to do a door, and cash in hand, you know, that's what they're doing. Now, is it going to stop that? Probably not. Is it actually going to be productive, or is it just going to affect the companies that are already doing everything as well as they can? It depends how useful it is. I mean, I have my opinions. You know, I'd like to believe that it would help a lot of things. I don't know. I don't have much faith. You know, I'm sort of mixed opinions with things on that. I think surely, why have a business licensing when you've got ACS? Realistically, it's, you know, for me, I would say it's the same. You know, effectively, you're gaining that. The whole point of the SIA really was to eliminate this element of, you know, sort of the underworld and unfavourable characters getting into it. But that's not what I'm seeing. You know, that's not happening. And it's frustrating. You know, it's frustrating to see that. So I don't know. Is the honest answer. If it works, then I'm all in favour. Will it work?
What about the workers' protection bill?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know too much about that. In fact, when you mentioned it, I was trying to Google it, but yeah, I'm not too overly familiar with it. HR is not my strongest point, so.
I'll just brief. The workers' protection bill basically means that you, as an employer, will have to protect or put steps in place to make sure that your staff are protected from harassment, abuse, etc., etc. So
I know what you mean now. Sorry.
How that's going to work in the, you know, I'm not entirely sure. So, you know, repeating that I am obviously giving it its latest. It's what's the saying? I'm just stretching it to its absolute worst possible nightmare. But it technically, you know, that's what it's saying. It's saying. Happy days.
I mean, you know, as I'm sure Gary's experienced as well. You've got people that come into this industry. They would do a night on the door. It will kick off, and then they're calling you up complaining that they've been punched or this has happened, and it's kind of like, what industry did you think you're getting into? You know, what industry did you? You know, we had it where someone got injured, and is potentiality they were looking at basically trying to sue us and everything else, and anyway, I spoke to insurance, and they said, but no, they said, look, they are in an industry that, unfortunately, similar to police, similar to that kind of thing, there is an element that you potentially can get injured. As long as the company wasn't at fault for that reason, then you haven't got anything to worry about. And we weren't at all. It was, you know, it was something that wasn't even related to any of our customers. So I think they've got to use some kind of common sense here and say, look, like, it's what I mean. Are we going to have people like coming in and reporting that the fact they've been called a nasty name every week, and how it's affected? It's just not the environment for someone that is easily offended. To be brutally honest, it's not. You know, and I mean, I teach the SIA course when I'm brave enough to do it. I've got my qualifications, and I have a training company as well. And one of the things I say on that to a lot of the people, I'm quite real with them. I'm like, if you're going to get into this industry, you need to understand that, like, if you're like me, you're bald-headed, you've got a big nose, whatever, people are going to focus on that, and they're going to try and push your buttons and make you feel like crap. And you need to understand that that's what's going to happen, because you can't stand there and it happened and then go, oh God, I can't believe that. It's out of order. It's just, it's the industry. The nature of some of these people that we deal with, as we mentioned earlier, a fear of no consequence. Some of the things that, you know, I don't even think about anymore. You know, I thought back to some of the things that have been said to me and the things that people are going to do to my family and everything else. You would probably feel pretty crap, but you can't. It's the nature of an instrument. And I know more often than not that what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a rise out of you.
Yeah.
So by saying this and doing that, by you then rising to it, you are reacting. And this is the way I translate it to the staff and team is, listen, they are going to be nasty to you, but what they're trying to do is to get you to lower your professionalism, basically, and want you to engage with them in a way that is not professional. So you don't do that, which then annoys them even more because you're doing that. And that's how I try and rationalize it with the students. It's just not reality, you know. In a world, there are good and bad people. And
at what point did reality ever, you know, enter this, you know, this debate, you know, within over the last few years, as Gary and I have said, you know, you're coming into the social economy. Yeah, to enjoy yourself, you're going to get drunk, you're going to bump into people, and we're not running a crash.
No.
Not a crash. But Gary, please, you speak.
Oh, cheers, really.
No,
thanks,
all right, mate.
No, cheers. I appreciate that. No, just going back. I mean, where do you start? You know, you cannot protect your officers out on the ground. I mean, things like, as Oli's done in place, and like I've always recommended clients and Vanessa's company, body cameras, that does eliminate a lot of stuff. You're putting things in play to try and to reduce these aspects. It doesn't always work. You know, you still get assaulted, you still get called names, still bits and pieces. But if you're walking into an industry where you're going to be offended that easily, you know, you're in the wrong game. And as a company, you can't protect people. We had a young man going back in 2018 who had his neck broken. I'm not sure if I spoke to him about it. He'd done everything right. Our SOPs are right. Everything is right. We had the electronic app, which he was printing on. He was trying to remove a guy from the site. He even told he was going to call the police. The guy kept pushing it. It ended up being a scuffle happened as he's trying to remove him from site. The guy's power drived him, grabbed hold of him, power drived him. He's broke his neck, or his chips, one of C1, C2s in his neck. The guy can't work again. Now, we've done everything. The SOPs are in play. We followed the licensing agreements. City police have already stated how many door supervisors or security officers need to be in that site. Anyway, so we've done everything we can. The guy, officer, we went to help him out, all the rest of it. Then he decided to turn it onto the company. Now, as a company, we've done everything right. We cannot stop that person attacking him. You know, there's no way there. We had everything in play. We even had the operations manager turn up 30 minutes later. We took him out from the situation. We replaced him that night. We've done everything we can. But there is just no physical way we can stop that person attacking. Even going, I go back to me about my situation 3 weeks ago, me getting punched in the face. There was no way of that to be stopped. It happened. You know, the company can't stop it. You know, when that person's made that decision, it's out of our hands. It's out of our hands, in the hands of the gods. And at that point, when that person decided to attack a security officer or guest safety officer, that person's done it. And the companies cannot be responsible for that. We can only put things in play by doing the SOPs, by giving them ID, like I body armor if need be. So body worn cameras, give them the right equipment, give them the best training we can give them, but we cannot protect them once they're out on the ground. We can only give them what we can give them.
I don't think you can. I think that's one of the difficult things. So the last, because we are, as ever, because I hate it, because we have too many interesting people on this show. That's the difficulty. Just briefly, training standards. What is your view on on training, Oli? What do you think? Because everybody knows what me and Gary think. Who's watched this show before. What do you think about the training, the level of training?
I only obviously heard about the show today, so I did a quick look, and judging from what you guys talk about, I think we're definitely going to be on the same page with this. It's a tricky one. I'm a trainer. That's what I do. I don't do an amazing amount of it, but with the training company, I observe a lot, and I see, and obviously see the practicality of what is delivered. It's what they expect of door supervisors on the ground to be achieved in 6 days, that realistically takes police and other people, a year or whatever, probation, everything else to achieve. It's crazy. A day and a half maybe of physical intervention, which in the words of an SIA inspector chap that I spoke to, are just guiding techniques. So I said, what happens when those guiding techniques work? He was like, there's no kind of answer behind that. Now, for me, I believe in the techniques to an extent, but as we all know, one, they're only as good as much as you practice them, and two, no technique's ever foolproof. Plus, there are probably more effective techniques that are frowned upon or not, that are safe, but the SIA don't approve of. Now, I think that the level of training, I think there's a lot of scapegoating with the government, especially with things like the Manchester Arena inquiry, where realistically the focus is getting put on, some of it's getting put on security, when realistically it should be put on the SIA to say, well, actually the standard that is being delivered probably isn't up to the scratch it needs to be. Hence why they've given us another 2 days to the course, or whatever it is. And I think that the problem you've got is that because the role, even though they call us professionals and it's a professional role, we're not fully considered that. I mean, let's be honest. Like if they really took it seriously, we would have more support for what we do. We wouldn't have the situations we get in, which I find more often not with the SIA, is they're very quick to celebrate and go, oh, this is great, and everything else like that. But if there's an issue, rather than actually standing by the member of security or whatever else, they're very quick to throw them under the bus. And that's probably my biggest issue with the industry. There's no, as much as they're authority, they also need a support there to do it. And it just seems a bit of a blame game. And the training side of it, like I said, I try and make it as real as I can, but as much as you can get in 6 days is what it is. And the reality comes when you learn on the ground, and you learn as you go. I did the course, and it was 2 days, I believe, back then. Now it's 6. But what the guys learn, they get a foundation, but what they really learn is the actual practical element. How do you as a company afford to take someone on and pay them to trial constantly in a door role? I've tried it. It's not feasible. It generally isn't. You just lose too much money when you do it. And there's no, like I said, there's no guarantee with that. So you are taking a punt on each and every person that gets a license to whether they are actually going to fit the role. Now, I like to think I've got a bit of a detector with the right kind of thing I'm looking for in recruiting staff. And you kind of like try and trust your gut on that. And I've looked at guys and gone, yeah, they're or ladies, guys, whatever, they'd be brilliant. In practicality, they've got on the door and are absolute wet wipe. They're useless. Training's the real training doesn't start really until you are actually working operation. That's the way I see it. And there are definitely good elements, and we've seen guys pick up good things, apply them when they're on the job. But fundamentally, it's not long enough, and the physical intervention side of it needs to be more intense. We're teaching what the SIA wants us to deliver. We're told we're not allowed to, divert from that. That is what we have to teach. there's companies out there, and I won't mention a particular company that seems to have come in, got a big government contract, and they're taking guys on, they're training them and teaching the complete opposite to what the SIA are teaching you to do. They're basically sort of handcuffing, control and restraint techniques, everything else, going against everything we have just spent 6 days telling our guys to do, how to do it. And they're getting them on and they're paying them, great money. But in principle, I'm kind of confused at how we are governed by that, but yet they are then delivering that kind of in line with the College of Policing. What the police are taught through their thing is very different from what we are. Like, I have a very good friend who was a trainer for the Home Office, all straight out of the College of Policing, and he couldn't understand why ours is different. I was like, you tell me, but we cannot do, or we are told not to do, the same things that you are allowed to do.
It depends. That does depend on the level of training. And sorry, Gary, I will say the type of training that you're delivering at level 2. Because I actually was I was still sort of involved when all of this training was put in place by the SIA. I was quite heavily involved in that, and it was all designed to be the minimum amount of training that you were given. The reason being then that the idea being that after that had been breached or broached or had been exceeded, you were then into the realms of self-defense and and common law self-defense at that point. That right, we can only go so far down the thing, but once you put something in place, as you know, then you are expected first and foremost to go through that process. And if you haven't got that other level, so I mean, I wrote a couple of bits and pieces. I know other people that wrote extended training packages. Gary knows. Gary and I are friends with one of them. In fact, I'm friends with another one as well. They're good packages, but they're not within. But they couldn't get trained by you at SIA entry level. It's a separate course, and that's the reality of it.
It is the reality. I mean, we do, like I said, we offer our own, because the inevitable question comes when you're teaching someone the techniques, and they go, but what about this? What about that? It's like, well, we can't actually go through that with you on this course, but we do offer an in-house, which I find more applicable. Sorry to divert, sort of divert away a little bit, but one of the things frustrating most is in the past where other techniques have been used and things like that. Generally, if the police didn't have an issue, they weren't going to arrest you, then you're okay. What has really sort of troubled me of sort of maybe the last 3 years or whatever is that there's been situations where the doorman actually has acted correctly. He's done what he's done, but he hasn't used an SIA-approved technique. Anyway, the police have cleared him, but the SIA have then come and taken his license. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, I just really struggle with it. That side of things is probably one of my biggest frustrations. But
Gary,
what are we saying? I can only agree. It's the same. We are hearing the same thing throughout the industry. And yes, I hear this, and I said to you before, they hear but they don't listen. And this is the thing: they're not listening. They hear but they're not listening. The techniques which we've all spoken about. They're 2-person techniques for a start. What about 1-person doors? What do you do? It falls back on self-defense. It's all up in the air. There's pointless going on about it, because whoever's on these SIA secret bodies, they cannot divulge your names because it's top secret or it's in breach of data protection, which they stated. We don't know who's making these decisions and who's advising them.
Well,
so you tell me. You've been there, Ian. You tell me.
Well, yeah, but I do know.
There you go.
But I do know one of them as well.
But unfortunately, as we said, There's things that, you know, we can't really discuss. And don't get me wrong, I have sat there, and I've said this time and time again, I sat there in the room and I couldn't believe it when in the room, and everybody in that room thought that what was going to happen, there was going to be a standardized set of techniques. All of the providers for physical interventions would be made to use the same basic techniques, like the phonetic alphabet, so that we knew, each person knew. So if you trained somebody, Gary trained somebody, and I said, oh, we use the C cup, or the wrist grab, or the, you know, flap your wings. Yeah. Everybody knew what would do that, and it should have been in line with what the police were teaching, so that, you know, when the police arrived, there would be that communication. And everybody sat in that room, and I was there, and there was tears rolling down some of the cheeks. Oh, they're going to take away, and we've got our special how to kill your mate technique. We'll never be able to use that if we do this. And lo and behold, the SIA said, oh no, it's all right, you'll be fine, you can use whatever techniques you like, lads. Yeah, that is what happened on that day, and it hasn't changed. And it's wrong diddly dong dong on everything, every possible conceivable thing, and people have died and have been injured as a result, in my opinion, of that not being put in place. But they know, because they've been told, as Gary said. But hey, right, you know, training, wow, we did it, we got through it, we got through a hell of a lot, had a fantastic time. We hope you've enjoyed yourself, Oli.
It's nice to have a vent, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Hey?
Yeah. Yeah, apologies if I go off on one. It's obviously quite passionate about it, but
that's what we want.
Yeah. It's nice to be honest, to talk to people who also really understand the industry as it is now. Because, as I said, for me, there was so many things that, you know, that occurred over the years, that with the, not sort of sound like, oh, in the good old days, but the sort of the guys before that knew what was past, what was present. And a lot of the newer teams that I'm seeing now, you kind of have a joke, and they just don't really understand it. They don't necessarily get what has occurred in the past. And it's good to sort of, you know, to be honest, chat to other chaps on the same page as myself. It's nice.
It means you, obviously. I don't.
I include everyone. No, everyone.
That's very good. It's very inclusive of you. I'm going to edit that a bit, but
that's brilliant.
But
really enjoyed it.
No, so right. What we normally do is give Gary. I love his tuppence worth, you know, thing. So we could be here for some time. Yeah.
All right.
You know, you're saying you got your medals with you. You know, you do like to show them off. You know, I was wounded because he did suffer. I mean, I will say this because I know you won't. He got when he got punched, he suffered a traumatic brain injury, had a TBI, crashed, didn't you? Well, you tell him now, because you do the medical stuff, don't you?
But basically, I had a Glasgow coma scale of 4. I started to crash, and basically I had a traumatic brain injury. Put it in simple terms, I nearly died, but no, I didn't die. I'm still here, obviously. Yeah, and that's just what happened about 3 weeks ago, Oli. So, and I'm still recovering from it now. And that was from someone snipering me. Sucker punched, couldn't see it coming, didn't even see it coming. Boom, took me from the side, and that is simply it. But anyway, that's enough about me. I'm still here.
Did you have a good? Have you had a good? What do you think to it? How's the show been? Because obviously you do realise I'm actually auditioning Oli here as your replacement now, don't you?
Well, all I can say is you've got a thing for, you know, bald men.
Yeah, clearly I have.
Bald men. Little do you realise that I'm actually auditioning Oli for your position. But
oh no.
Okay, you know, and seeing this 2 rights make a right, it's all cool, isn't it? Which, you know, we've got the right look, we've got the right feel.
Yeah.
And
I think you've upset him now, Gary.
Sideshow. He calls me Sideshow Fox when you're not looking. Anyway. But and that's outrageous, isn't it? I form it all, found it all, you know, find him, I found him, you know, tucked him under my wing, pat him on there, you know, etc. Said, come on, you know, dabbed the tears from his eyes and said, come on, come with me, I'll make you into a superstar. And the next thing I know, I'm Sideshow Fox. But there you go. Anyway, have you had a good time? Will you join us again at some point?
Listen, I'm here if you want to discuss anything. I've really enjoyed it. It also gets me out of a boring afternoon of meetings. So I definitely prefer. But yeah, if there's any other topics, chaps, be happy to help.
Yeah, it'd be lovely. Well, you know, we need to find people from around the country, and so you're now our Canterbury, you know, reporter. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I'll keep you updated.
On a serious note, it has been great seeing you. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks very much for everything you said about the issue, unbelievable issue with that knife. I literally am struggling to, but we'll talk about that another time. Have a great day, people. Yeah, and peace out.
Thank you very much.